Looking to create a life filled with connection, creativity, and a little bit of audacious charm? At withmagsy.com, we bring people together in all the best ways. Join the Supper Club, where food, laughter, and great company make every gathering unforgettable. Tune in to the local Whidbey with Magsy podcast, celebrating the small businesses and bold dreamers that make up audacious islanders and shape Whidbey Island. Transform your home with Spaces, a personalized interior styling service that reflects your style and brings your space to life. Ready to gather, be inspired, and make your space truly yours? Visit withmagsy.com today. Hey there, Whidbey Island listeners. Welcome back to Local Whidbey with Magsy, where we dig into the stories, passions, and talents that make this island the vibrant community we all adore. Today we're talking about something fresh, local, and downright delicious, because we're sitting down with Stephen Williams, part of the incredible duo behind Foxtail Farm Organics in Freeland, Washington. If you've ever visited the Bayview Farmers Market, you've likely been drawn to the colorful abundance and friendly vibes of their stand. It's no wonder they're the top destination for vegetables, fruits, and farm fresh goodness. But Foxtail Farm Organics is more than just a farm stand. It's a labor of love rooted in sustainable practices, a deep respect for the land, and a commitment to bringing healthy, organic produce to the Whidbey community. In today's episode, we'll dive into Stephen and Amy's journey, what inspired them to start their farm, the challenges and joys of organic farming, and what it is like to be such an integral part of the local food scene. Whether you're a foodie, a farmer, or just someone who loves supporting local, their story is guaranteed to leave you inspired and maybe even hungry for a fresh salad. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and get ready to learn how Stephen and Amy are growing more than just vegetables. They're growing community, connection, and a whole lot of love for Whidbey Island. Let's dig in. Hello, Stephen.
Hi, Magsy.
Nice to meet you.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me in your place as well, in your beautiful farm. We love it out here so much. We were just recollecting a couple of years ago, probably 3 years ago, that my husband and I met you here, and you showed him around, and we had such a good time. And so you guys were one of the first people I thought of to interview, mainly because I wanted to start going with people that I've had some type of relationship, whether it's buying your food or it's wanting to know your story behind your business.
Yeah.
So how did you like that intro? Did I get it? Was it accurate?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's maybe you or I'm flattered. I'll say that.
Okay.
So I appreciate it. And yeah, I think it was pretty well done.
Well, you know, as writers, sometimes we can probably use a little bit too many adjectives, but anyway, I thought, you know, it went pretty well as far as an intro went. And I think it's all true. To me, it is. You know,
I appreciate the kind words.
I'm your audience.
Well, thank you.
All right. So tell the listeners why you moved to Whidbey Island from North Carolina.
So it was around 2011, I was wanting to have a career shift and had been interested in growing food for a while, and long story short, had been trying to find a way to expedite that process so that if I wanted to do it as a career, I could more or less jump right into it without having to do a ton of apprenticeships or internships or go to a 4-year college to learn about agriculture. So we had been doing some gardening and stuff in the backyard like a lot of people do. Mm-hmm. And I started really getting serious about trying to do something more full time, and had been sort of scouring the internet for programs that I could take that would teach me how to do what I'm doing now in an expedited way, something that would allow me to not take so much time off from work and earning money, but I would be able to jump right into it as quickly as possible. And discovered the Organic Farm School, which is located on the island down in the Maxwellton Valley. Yeah. Discovered that program and applied for it and got accepted and started that. I quit my job in February of 2012 and then moved out here in March to start the program, and did the farm school program in 2012 And once I learned the lay of the land and started meeting people, just loved the place and loved the people that I had had the good fortune of interacting with that whole time. And fast forward a year or two later, we had an opportunity to move back out here through Amy's work.
Okay.
And she works in Everett full time, and they paid for us to move out here. And since I did have some contacts on the island already, it's like, well, why live on the mainland when you can live on Whidbey? So that's sort of a Cliff Notes version of how we got out here.
So Amy is the person that a lot of people have seen at Bayview Farmers Market. Yeah. And so just real quickly, what does Amy do in Everett?
She has a master's in nursing, and her specialty is ear, nose, and throat. So she has been a nurse practitioner for about 20 odd years now, for quite a long time. And she started working at it was the Everett Clinic, but now it's called Optum, but everybody knows it here as the Everett Clinic. And she works at the main campus right in downtown Everett. And she's been at that job since the day we moved here back in 2014. And she commutes every day on the ferry and then takes the bus into Everett. And
So farming was something you wanted to do. You didn't do it back in North Carolina. So you didn't start it until you got to here after the organic farm school. Just to wrap that back.
Yeah. When we moved out here, my only intention was to start a farm.
Okay.
And thankfully it's worked out. But,
so that's a good segue into what has been the most rewarding moment within your farming journey so far?
So far, I'm really proud of how far we've come as a business. When you move from across the country to a place where you only know a handful of people and you start a business from the second you land here, you're taking a big chance.
Yeah.
And farming is especially hard anyway because the profit margins aren't great to begin with, and then when you move to a new place and you're growing annual vegetables where you're relying on people to support you. From the very beginning, because we have a mortgage and we have bills to pay and stuff like that too. So it was a real big leap of faith, and it took a year or two to sort of get on our feet and meet people and have steady business and repeat customers and things like that. But we chipped away at it, and my business plan, I've done a couple of business plans, and you do like a 1 year, 3 year, a 5 year projection, 10-year projection or whatever. And it hasn't followed the outline perfectly, but it has more or less gotten to where I wanted it to be. And this is our 10th year doing it this year. So our 10th year anniversary is 2025, which is hard to believe. But I'm just super proud of
you should be
how far we've come in the relationships that we've formed with our immediate community. The people that live here full time are the ones that really support us year round. And we have an influx of people, obviously, in the summer that come here as tourists, and those people still shop with us too, but they're like a one-time thing. So I'm just super proud of the relationships that we've formed with people like you and all the other people that help support us 12 months out of the year.
Yes, I mainly shop at your little
the farm stand.
The farm stand. That's where, because I can't always come down on Saturdays. And so I'll come in the week. And I know I miss a lot of stuff because that's probably left over. But I still get great things when I'm in there. Transform your home with Pereira Island Construction, where owners Mike and Susanna Pereira bring over 30 years of experience to every project, specializing in custom decks, patio covers, garden sheds, and garages. They deliver quality craftsmanship and trustworthy service. Serving all of Whidbey Island and Western Washington, they ensure seamless communication and on-site organization from start to finish. No upfront payments. You pay only when the job is complete and you're satisfied. Contact Mike at 360-200-7887 for a free consultation and visit PereiraIslandConstruction.com to learn more. Pereira Island Construction, building trust with quality work. So let's talk about this. So when I left Texas, one of the big things that we had watched documentaries about and heard of or talked to people who were moving out in the country to try to fix soil that was dead soil. And so I know you support the community with your organic vegetables, but also what do you do in order to sustain the soil here from that not happening?
So we've been certified organic from day one. We're certified by the Washington State Department of Agriculture, and that sort of being certified inherently forces you to do things the right way. And we've never sprayed any chemicals out here. We always try to do things that once I'm dead and gone, that we're leaving this place better than how we found it. But we are growing vegetables, so we are constantly depleting the soil, so to speak. When you put a seed in the ground and it grows, it's taking all the nutrients out of the ground. So the concept is to try to keep adding back to it so that you have a good baseline to be able to grow good nutrient-dense food. And so obviously we follow organic practices, but that comes at a cost too, because we have weeds and we have some bad insects that out there that we don't like, but we've learned to do our best to live with them to a certain degree. Like if we walked through the fields right now, you'd see weeds in places, and I would like for it to be perfectly clean and bare soil and not a weed out there, but it's just not reality. So we've learned to sort of live with the environment that we're at, and we're super close to the water here and living on an island. We want to make sure that we're not overusing our aquifer, and then at the same time, we're not putting stuff in the soil that could leach through and affect the water table and things like that. And obviously, we live in a place where there's abundant wildlife and there's tons of birds and animals and stuff like that too. So we've never wanted to do things that are within our power that would potentially harm anything environmentally. And we've always been that way, even before we were farming, just trying to be good citizens to the planet and things like that. And it sounds hokey or whatever, but the being organic sort of guides the way that we think. But at this point, it's kind of second nature. So it's not super hard to do. And being as small as we are, we only have 10 acres. And so it's a manageable amount of land to be able to grow a high volume of stuff.
That's great on 10 acres, what you guys produce.
Yeah. And like I say, we're proud of it, and we get a little bit better every year, and we make mistakes along the way and just try to learn from it. But we're always trying to be considerate of the natural world around us so that we're not doing anything to harm it. So
tell the listeners a piece of advice that you wish you had when you first started farming.
I would just take your time. Don't get too stressed out about, like, it's easy to say because anybody that's in business needs to have a return on all of that investment that you've made up front.
Right.
But it does take time. And so being able to weather the highs and lows is important. And it would be great if the first year that you start farming as a business, that you could be making hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
But that's just not the case. And so being able to give yourself a little bit of grace along the way so that you're not beating yourself up if, well, I had a bad day at the farmer's market, or I planted a bunch of stuff and it died. You're going to have those things. And at the beginning, it is super stressful. And it's like, have I made the wrong decision by doing this? Or whatever it is. Everybody's context is a little bit different. But, I know that I beat myself up a little bit on some things or decisions that I've made that haven't panned out. But as time goes on, you get a little bit better, a little bit smarter, you figure things out. And, luckily, thankfully now we're not coasting, but things are at a level that we can manage. And we're making enough money to pay the bills and things like that too. So, just being able to give yourself a little bit of time to figure things out before you totally throw in the towel.
I don't know why, but my husband and I like to watch farm documentaries. And the first one we ever watched I think it's called Little Farm, the one in California.
Big Little Farm.
Big Little
or
Farm.
Little Big Farm, whatever.
Little Big Farm. Yeah. Wow. You're talking about things happening after you worked your tail off.
For sure.
Between animals and nature and fires and everything.
Yeah.
What a crazy. And then they kept going, and it's just so successful now.
Yeah. And farming, you're obviously dealing with Mother Nature. And,
yes.
We have a volatile weather system here. We have a pretty calm summer, but the fall, winter, and spring, it could be windy, rainy, or cold, or whatever. So having to deal with the elements is an added stress that some people don't necessarily have to deal with. And a lot of it is just out of your hands, and trying to let go of that when, you have a bunch of hail or something that beats up the crops or whatever that you can't really do anything about. It's always easier said than done.
And you have a lot of hoop houses.
Yeah, we have a lot of those too. So that takes a little bit of pressure off too.
So do you grow what you know grows here really, really well, or do you let local culture influence what you grow based on what people buy?
It's a little bit of both. And then also, we're from North Carolina, and so I grew up eating Southern style food. And so
tomatoes. I haven't been able to grow big fat tomatoes here at all.
Tomatoes are tough because people can always grow tomatoes and get plenty of fruit. It's the ripening that is always the hard part, because we don't have.
You need the heat.
You need the heat. But being from the South, we've always tried to experiment with things that native Northwesterners aren't quite used to, and things that I grew up eating that we like to eat.
Okra,
and things that need heat that we don't have, and they're a little bit fussy to grow. So we've tried to specialize in a few of those things that you can't just go to Safeway and buy. But then alternatively, after a decade of doing this, we have figured out what the market likes to buy, and we are continually trying to pare down the things that we're growing so that we can grow more of the things that sell and that we make some decent money on. And like I say, every year we never do the same thing twice. We are always tweaking our crop plan and things like that. But there's 15 or 20 staples that we grow all the time, and we're lucky out here in the Northwest because we don't get terribly cold in the wintertime, that we can grow things like kale and collards and broccoli and cabbage, all the brassica crops or whatever. And sometimes they're boring. I love them all, but they grow really well here. We have the perfect climate for those things. And so you can always sort of fall back on those things, and you can put them out in the field, and we can get a nasty, ugly cold spell. And for the most part, they'll come out on the other side looking pretty well.
Well, the other thing that has taken me a bit to get used to, and we didn't really realize it the first year we started going to farmers markets here, is that you really don't get a lot of vegetables and things until midsummer or later. And the first part of the farmers market is about buying food and vegetables.
Yeah.
And so that was a little different for us to get used to, because it's literally the opposite in the South.
For sure. And we're approaching that time of year that they call the hunger gap, where our days are still short, it's cold, the soil is still cold, nothing is really actively growing out there. So we try to grow a lot of, like I say, like kales and things that we can harvest off of that are hardy enough to be able to make it through the winter. But we're also, in the late summer and the early fall, we're trying to grow a bunch of storage crops so that they can either sit in the ground and not be affected by the cold, or we can harvest them like root crops, like carrots and parsnips and radishes, winter radishes, the things that you can take out of the ground, you can put in a walk-in cooler, and they'll actually start tasting better the longer that they're out. They'll get a little sweeter and things like that. So we're figuring that type of thing out. But you are correct. The spring and early summer is a tough time here, just because it just takes us so long to get to a point where the days are long enough and we have enough sun and less rain and clouds to be able to.
And less frost is later. Yes,
for sure.
So is there anything surprising that you've learned about your customers? Probably different here than back home.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't farming back home.
That's true.
And my mom always is like, "Oh, you should come here and do it. You'd have so much support." And I don't doubt that, but I do think it's a little bit different out here. People out here are very aware of what you are doing, and from a farming perspective, they appreciate the effort that you're putting in, and they're all very locally minded, and they want to support not just my small local farm, but all the local restaurants and local businesses and stuff like that. Because we being on an island, we have to be somewhat self-sustaining, because there is no industry here, and you know, if you don't work for the Navy base or Island County government, there are everything else is just a small business. And I've really appreciated everybody's how genuinely happy they are to support my business and how loyal they are. And they come here, and we have the farm stand, and people still go to the grocery store, but a lot of times people will stop here first and see what they have. And if we have something that they want that they would buy at the grocery store anyway, they'll graciously buy it from us, and they might even pay a little bit more, but they want to be supportive of what we're doing so that we can stay in business. And I have always appreciated that. And I knew that from the very beginning, which is another reason I wanted to farm here, because I could see that during my time at the organic farm school that it was probably going to be that way. So I don't know, it's almost like a little cheat code. I knew it would be a little bit easier to be able to do this because I felt like I would have the support, and it's totally borne out that way. It's definitely happened.
So in the last 10 years, has there anything happened in your business, farming, that, I don't know, I wouldn't want to say a mistake, but just something funny that has happened? I love funny stories.
I don't know. Like, I do the social media stuff, and I post stuff all the time. Well, not all the time, but when I do post stuff, I'm constantly like rereading whatever the caption is. And you know how if you write something, you're the only one reading it, and you're trying to look for mistakes. And you think, okay, this is sweet. And you hit send, and then you go back 5 minutes later and read it. You're like, I said the same word twice or something like that, or I misspelled a word.
Or it auto-corrected.
Yeah, you didn't see it. So I've done that plenty of times. But like farming, we direct seed a lot of things out in the field, like our carrots and radishes and beets and things like that. And there's been many times where, not many times, but on a few occasions, I have been direct seeding like carrots. And I always do carrots and beets at the same time, and a little section out there in the field. And I'll do the carrots, and then I'll empty the seed hopper, and then put the beets in, and then do the beets. Well, there's been a couple of times where I've just totally spaced out and forgot to take the carrots out of the bin hopper. Then I put the beets in there too, and I don't even notice it at the time until I'm done with it. I'm like, oh crap, this is going to be fun. So then, you know, a couple of weeks later, when everything germinates, I've got a mess on my hands. And I've done that a couple of times, but you know, you get out there and you get busy, and you're sort of constantly thinking ahead, and mistakes are bound to happen. But those are things that I can chalk up to just not, you know, being right there.
Well, my first thing that happened to me when I was landscaping my yard here is I really concentrated on buying deer resistant and rabbit resistant plants. And there was one that I bought that I planted 12 of the plants. They were a type of grass for cold or hot weather, and ornamental. And I came out the next day, and every one of them had been eaten down below the dirt. Yeah. Like, come on, get in line. We're going to eat all her stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Being deer and rabbit resistant, I don't know who I don't know how they get away with that.
In what area of the country.
Exactly. But but like we have the same things. We have some insects out there, or we'll have a few rabbits, or sometimes a deer will get in the fence. And we've learned to plant more than we need, knowing that we're going to have to sacrifice something to the animals or the insects or whatever. And it'll be nice to be able to plant a section and harvest 100% of it, but that's just not reality sometimes. And they got to eat too. So as long as they leave me enough to be able to make a little bit of money, I can kind of live with it. But if I go out there one day and everything is gone, then I'm going to be mad about it.
So let's get a little personal. Who has been the most significant influence on your life, and why?
I've never been...
Or maybe a story or something that's happened in your life that was a significant influence. One of the interviews I had, when I asked that question, they said, nobody. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, let's backtrack. Is there anything significant happened in your life that was the best influence for you?
Well, let me try to. I mean, I've never been somebody who like idolize anybody, but I appreciate people who like do good things and are selfless. And I mean, Amy puts up with all my shenanigans all the time, so she probably deserves an award.
Yeah.
You know, and it's cliche to say your family, but my parents, very locally minded, and my dad was a big proponent of public service and being a community member, not just taking, but trying to give back and things like that. So that molded me, I think. And, you know, like my brother's just a normal, hardworking guy, and he gets up and goes to work every day and provides for his family. And I think those are the people like that I probably have the most respect for. And like, there's real celebrities. Like I'm a big soccer fan, so I watch a lot of English Premier League soccer, or football as they call it. But my favorite team is Liverpool. And Liverpool had a guy, he doesn't play for him anymore, but his name was Sadio Mane. He was from Senegal. And the guy came from a tiny village in Africa and made a ton of money, and basically just gave it all back to where he came from, and built schools and hospitals and did a lot of good things for his community. And I super respect that. And the guy, he's a chef, Jose Andres. So
he's amazing.
World Central Kitchen, that guy, he's amazing. That whole organization is amazing. But you know, they go to Gaza, to Ukraine. They've been in North Carolina where that hurricane hit.
And they've been in LA.
And all. So like people that do things like that are the ones that I want to try to, in my own small little way, emulate. But I am an imperfect human, and
as we all are.
Just trying to take small examples from just like regular people and do stuff like that. So
your skin deserves a sanctuary, and so do you. At Zen Aesthetics in Oak Harbor, experienced esthetician Adrienne Hawkins goes beyond skincare. She nurtures your soul while rejuvenating your skin. Step into a space where stress melts away and self-care takes center stage. From customized facials to expert skincare solutions, every treatment is designed to bring out your natural glow. Because beauty isn't just skin deep, it's an experience. Book your appointment today and find your Zen. Visit Zen Aesthetics on Instagram at Zen Aesthetics Whidbey, or call 360-670-0445. So what do you love about the island the most? Living here?
It's not just one thing. I mean, I appreciate the climate. I like that we have long days in the summer and the days are a little shorter and darker in the winter, because we have literal seasons, but you know, in the middle of summer when the weather is nice and the sun's out, like that's when we're trying to hustle and make money and do as much as we can to fill the days and not be lazy. But this time of year, and we're in January as we're taping this, it's a little bit more chill, at least for me and what I do and what we do here.
Some downtime,
some rest time, some time to plan for the future and just catch our breath a little bit. So I appreciate that. And I mean, again, it's nice being surrounded by all this wildlife and nature. And I love that the mountains meet the ocean. I think that's the coolest thing ever. So like having all these evergreens and the different kinds of landscapes and things like that, I really dig that, and I appreciate it more. And you know, we have a pretty good view of Mutiny Bay, and we can see Mount Rainier. And sometimes I take that for granted, but then other days I'm like, holy cow, look where I'm at.
It'll just hit you.
So trying to not take things for granted so much, and then the people are awesome here, and the people that have moved here, that live here full time, that we've gotten to know, at least on a small level. I don't know. I just really think it's a really cool place and really supportive, and it's a bit of a Goldilocks place where you have a little bit of all the good things sort of wrapped up in one place.
Right.
So I think that's pretty neat.
So that being said, the beauty surrounding all of us all the time. Do you have a hidden gem, a place you guys like to go, or a secret spot you like to tell?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell a secret spot at the end of our street. Is, if you've ever been here, if you go to the end of our street, there's a beach down there, and it is public, but there's only a handful of parking spots. So
I did not know that.
It's never crowded down there, and I don't want to blow it up by saying this on a podcast, but our little dog Barley, he goes down there every day and just sort of does his thing on the beach. And there's hardly, especially this time of year, there's really not a lot of people down there, and so it's on Mutiny Bay, so you can walk from one end of the bay to the other almost, and only see a handful of people.
I'll have to bring my dog down here.
It's really nice, and like I say, it's open to the public, but you can't get a ton of people down there all at once. So it's nice for us because we can just walk down there. And
that's great. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Hopefully it won't blow up.
It'll be okay.
So here's a question I want everyone to answer, and I hope you've thought about it. But how would you like to see the community grow or evolve in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, not to go down a rabbit hole, but we've been here for a decade now, and I think even when we moved here initially, you could see on the horizon that there was going to be some issues with housing and affordability and things like that. And I've always been a little bit frustrated with the county, and I know there's only so much that they can do, but feels like they haven't been proactive in trying to address a few things. And, all of my friends are just, working stiff. They're just here trying to make a go at it. And a lot of them have young kids, but it is super expensive to live here. So if there was, if I could wave a magic wand, if there was one thing that I could do or impress upon people higher up than me, it would be to try to make things a little bit easier for especially younger people younger than me that want to make a life for themselves on the island, but are finding it incredibly difficult. And we meet people all the time who hear about how great it is to live here. And it is a fantastic place to live. And they come here and they're having a hard time just finding a place to rent that's affordable. And they come here and they stay here for 6 months or a year, and then they just figure out that they can't do it. Yeah. And so I wish there was a way that things could be more affordable, and I know there are issues, and we have a ton of Airbnbs, and there's a general lack of just affordable housing anyway, but that would be one thing just to make the quality of life a little bit easier. Yeah. And we are very dependent on tourists in the summer, especially. Yeah. And there are a lot of second homes around here that aren't being occupied full time. And I don't have any problem with that. People can do whatever they want to, but it would be nice if there was a way to do some things to make it so that there were more long-term rentals, I'll say. And then, just generally trying to make the island as a whole a good place for people to earn a living, because it is so difficult. And a lot of the people that live here, like Amy, they commute and go off the island. And
my husband too.
That is what it is. And we don't want skyscrapers on the island or anything like that. But I don't know. I just wish there were more things that we could do to sort of make things a little bit more
housing,
a little more equitable for people to be able to stick around, because I'm not 20 anymore, but we can't have a bunch of 75 and 80-year-olds here because nobody can do anything. There wouldn't be restaurants or stores or anything like that. So we have to make somewhat of a culture so that people can live here and feel somewhat comfortable that they can pay their bills and keep their head above water.
Well, yeah, and even in the service industry, and that's every store, that's every restaurant, that's everything. There's people who are providing services for all of us, and they're not making something that a CEO or something like that would make here on the island. It's incredibly hard to find. I really don't know how they do it, to be honest, because even my husband and I at our age think it's very expensive here.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, it's a topic for another day, but
Yeah.
I'm not in county government, and I think the people that work it for the county are doing the very best they can, but I don't know. I just feels like more could be done to try to address some few things. And I know there's not a silver bullet to be able to do things right away, but at least do a little bit more to
keep working at it.
Yeah, keep working at it so that in the next 10 years, maybe we'll have a better handle on it, because it doesn't feel like things are going to get any cheaper.
No, and the best thing that everybody can do is always, always, always vote.
For
always.
sure. Oh, yeah.
Yes. So the last question, what's the lesson the community has taught you? Any lessons? One.
I think I've already probably touched on most of it, but I'll just say, like, being, not to sound too cheesy, but just like being a good person and being supportive of where you live, and not just being somebody that is taking advantage of what's out there. Try to do a little bit to give back to where you live. And there's so many amazing, like, nonprofit organizations on the island that are doing the very best they can to make this a better place. But a lot of the reason we have some of these organizations is because there are people suffering and things like that. So we do some stuff with the Good Cheer Food Bank down here, and it's the best food bank that I've personally ever been involved with, and they do just amazing work. But that place gets utilized more than people know, I think. And but I admire the people. There's a ton of people that volunteer there, and they're doing their part to try to give back to make life a little easier for some other folks. And I think that's more than anything what we have probably gleaned from our time here, is that it's a pretty special place, but you have to work at it to keep it special. That's so doing some things to give back a little bit is the least that you can do, I think.
Well, I really appreciate you letting me interview you today in your home on your property here. And he does have amazing views for sure. So tell everybody where they can find you online on social media, and when the farmer market starts.
The easiest way to find us is social media, Foxtail Farm Whidbey on Instagram and Facebook. I post everything to Instagram, but then it bounces over to
that's what I do too.
To Facebook. And all the market seasons, all of them, and everybody should go to all of them on the island. They start at the end of April, and they generally run through October, the middle part of October. And our farm stand here at the property, we're open 365 days a year, sun up to sundown. And we're in the process of expanding our farm stand. So, but I'll talk about that on social media when the time comes. But we're a few months away from that. But we're hoping to do a lot more from the farm as far as sales and things like that. So that's been a process in and of itself, but we're almost to the end of that whole ordeal. But we're getting there. And I've always had a dream to try to sell as much as we can from the property, and we're almost there. So, but I'll let everybody know.
Okay, great. Thank you again. I enjoyed myself. Hope you did too.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's a wrap on another episode of Local Whidbey with Magsy. Whether you're all about island life or just island bound in spirit, I hope you all are audacious islanders. Yes, that is a plug for my merch. Thanks for tuning in and celebrating the people, places, and magic that make Whidbey Island so special. Don't forget to share the love, tell a friend, leave a review if you have something positive to say, and follow along for more stories from our audacious island. Until next time, keep it quirky, keep it local, and keep loving Whidbey.